What it shows to prove is that we all have a different feel and different approach about how we like the bow to feel. And it's just different because that's how we play our instrument. Hey everybody, so I've been getting a lot of questions about my double bass equipment. So I thought I would do a video today just talking about my bows and the bows that I have and how I use them and why I picked them and all that fun stuff. So I will start talking about my bows. I've got 5 double bass bows, and I know that sounds like a huge number, like 5 bows. I did not always have 5 bows. When I auditioned for school, I had 1 bow. And when I actually got into school, I borrowed a bow for a long time until I got the money to pay for my first real double bass stick that I paid for. I remember that stick very well. It was an Eric Lane. Eric Lane is a bass player. He played in the Savannah Symphony, but Eric Lane made my very first stick. I do not own that stick anymore, but it was a great stick and I loved it, and it got me through, my goodness, it got me through school, and I believe I won my first job on an Eric Lane because I did not get my first stick after that until I got my Grunberger. This is my Grunberger, and this was the next stick that I purchased. It must have been, I bought it in 2005, so I believe it was made earlier that year. This is the Grunberger, and most of you have seen me play the stick on Instagram and YouTube, particularly during the pandemic, and I'll get to why in a second. But you'll see, everyone asks me about this little tape here, so I thought I would show it to you. Is tape actually covering the stick, and it's a repair on this stick. This stick, I don't know how it happened, but I had my bow rehaired, and the guy rehairing it came back to me with bad news, and he says, your bow has a crack in it. That's very sad, y'all, when you find out your bow has a crack in it. It's sad for a lot of reasons. One, because it has a crack in it. The other reason it's sad is because it loses its value by 80%. So that's one good reason to have insurance. I hope you have your equipment insured, because if you do get a crack in your stick, it does reduce the value by 80%. However, the good news is, once you get the bow repaired, and this makes it so that the crack does not continue to grow on the stick, the bow basically plays the same way. Not even basically, it plays the same way. I've loved this stick for a long time. I won all of my jobs after Grand Rapids. So I believe Grand Rapids was one on the lane, and then I bought this when I was in Santa Fe for the first time, playing Santa Fe Opera, and Robertson's Violin Shop is in Albuquerque, which is just 50 miles away. After that point, including the Santa Fe Opera, the Atlanta Symphony, the Philadelphia Orchestra, all of those auditions were taken on this stick. I love this stick dearly. I had the great fortune of meeting Jean Grunberger in Paris. We had a concert in Paris, France, not so long ago, and we played at the New Philharmonie in Paris and met Jean Grunberger, and I got to tell him how much I loved his stick and how much I've enjoyed it. So let's look at this stick a little bit more in detail, because I want to show you some things. This is the stick, and as you can see, this is the repair, but this is also an octagonal stick, and you can see that because it is octagonal. Actually, it's the ridges on the stick, and that goes all the way through to the frog. This is the frog of the beautiful Grunberger. I like octagonal sticks because they're generally really super strong, and they pull, when I put the bow on the string, it like wants to pull the sound out, like it's like just ripping, like it'll just rip the string. I love that feeling, because then I can always nuance and be very light with the bow if I don't want to rip the strings off. If I'm playing something like that, or if I'm playing Bach, I can always finesse and do that. But I just love that immediate grab. And for me, round sticks have a weird feeling in general, not all, but round sticks have a weird feeling, like it's like the bow is away, like being away from the string. So like it's like the bow's being, the string is repelling the bow. So I feel like I can't ever get down. Instead, it's like always pushing up. And I love the octagonal because it goes like, it grabs. I can't stress that enough. So that is my talk about octagonal sticks. I've generally gone with octagonal sticks. Now, have I played round sticks that have been fantastic? Yes. One of the round sticks that I played belonged to this dear woman, Jane Little. That's Jane Little. If you don't know who Jane Little is, Jane Little was a longtime member of the Atlanta Symphony. When I say a longtime member, I'm talking, as a matter of fact, let me see if I can find out. Jane started with the Atlanta Symphony when it became the Atlanta Symphony back in the 40s. She said it was basically it was a youth orchestra, but it all basically became an all-girls orchestra because the Second World War began, and she said all the guys disappeared. So it was basically an all-girls orchestra. And then when the story she told me was that when the war was over, the guys came back and all girls went away, but she hung out and stayed. And she stayed. This is this issue of the International Musician, which I don't know if you know this paper, came out. This is August of 2015, and it was in celebration of Jane's 71st season with the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra. So Jane and I, we were almost stand partners. We were basically stand partners, but Jane sat right next to me. She had given herself honorary 8th chair in the Atlanta Symphony by that point. And when I won the job, they sat in complete seniority order, so I sat next to Jane. She always had her own stand, so that's why we officially weren't stand partners, because Jane always had her own stand, which means I had my own stand when I was sitting right next to her. But Jane, lots of great stories. Jane was fantastic. And I say was because Jane passed away not so long ago after an incredible tenure playing with the Atlanta Symphony. And she's the longest tenured musician of any orchestra ever. She made the Guinness Book of World Records, and she actually was always really proud and excited about that. That's Jane Little. So round sticks, she has a bow called a Satori, or had a few bows. She had actually a lot of great sticks. But she had a Satori, and she goes, give it a shot. So I played it. That bow was fantastic. It was really ugly. It was kind of really tubby, and apparently Satoris can sometimes, I thought it was not the most beautiful craftsmanship, but that bow played amazingly. And then she told me how much it cost. And I was like, thank you, Jane. You can hold on to this a little bit longer. That's one of the best bows I remember I felt like I ever played. It was such a great stick. But even back then, and this was over 10 years ago, that bow was going for over $20,000. So if you want a Satori and you got 20,000 bucks, it could be yours. This is an aside about Jane. I just thought y'all might appreciate that. Maybe you don't care, but I love Jane, so I had to talk about Jane. Now, some of you are gonna ask about this rubber grip that I have here. Now, I get the grips of my bows from Robertson still, because I think they're the only ones who cut them in this way. At least that's where I've gotten them from. So these are two different, you can see this is a slightly different material than this one. And I'll show this to you. But it's all basically the same thing. It's just surgical tubing. That's basically it. I like these because they're like beveled and they look nicer on the stick. Now, I know some people hate this. Some people say I am like defacing, is that a word? Defacing the bow by putting a rubber grip on it. And I have gone through all kinds of iterations of what kind of grip I wanted to use. As a matter of fact, when I played in the Atlanta Symphony, I used to start wrapping my bows with rubber bands. I would take a fat rubber band and cut it, and I would wrap it here where my finger would hit the bow, and I would wrap it, I believe, it must have been here. It was two places, yeah, one on the frog, so I felt the grip, and the other on the with where my index finger would hit the bow. Now, the reason I started doing that was because someone was saying that these grips change the balance of the bow. And that's really true. They really do actually change the balance of the bow. And I like the way the bow felt when it didn't have it on it. But y'all, managing those rubber bands, because they didn't last very long. When you have a thin rubber band and you are playing a Beethoven symphony, it might make it through a few rehearsals in a concert, and then you had to wrap it again and wrap it again. That was just too much for me. And I did that for a while until I couldn't take it anymore, and I just went back to the rubber grip. So I know they're I don't need the whole thing. That's the crazy thing. I only need a piece here and a piece here. Y'all, could I spend a lot of time or just cut them up and do certain things? I could, but it just takes so much time and I generally don't have time. But maybe I'll think about that in the future. I just gave myself an idea. Maybe I should just cut it up so I can see what it feels like just here and put something where my index finger would be so I don't disturb the balance of the bow. Because when you disturb the balance of the bow, it could be for the better or it could be for the worse. So anyway, there you have it. The surgical tubing, that's what I use. You can get these in different sizes. So some people just get it just for the frog here, and that could only be about an inch. If you want 2 inches, 3 inches, I think I always get a little longer because I just outstretch my hand on the stick a little bit. So a little bit longer. I just don't want it to be too short because one of the worst things in the world to me is to have my hand hit the stick like this. That to me, bad news bears, because then it's like it defeats the purpose. So I'm gonna move on from the Grunberger and go to my Tomassi. Now Tomassi this is actually, I believe, a Brazil wood bow. When I say Brazil wood, that means it's kind of a student level bow. It's not necessarily full Pernambuco. Yes. Okay, I don't know if it's actually focusing anymore, but that's the bow. And you can see I've got my rubber tubing on it. And this bow I got because I worked the 2011. It was my last International Society of Bassists convention, and I hope to be able to go again in the future soon. As a matter of fact, I think I will be able to go next summer, so be on the lookout for a possible announcement there. But it was International Society of Bassists, and it was in San Francisco in 2011, and I worked for Guarneri House. Guarneri House is where I bought well, actually both of the basses that you see behind me. One is Norma, and I'm gonna do a whole video on Norma right here, and then Reiley right here. And Guarneri, Steve Reiley has been a longtime friend, the former owner of Guarneri House. He has since sold it to his son, Aaron Reiley. So technically I bought this bass from Steve Reiley and this bass from Aaron Reiley, but I said I'll do that later. When I worked for them, as a gift, they gave me a stick, because this is the stick I would always go to warm up or to play excerpts on. It's not an expensive stick at all. Like I said, it's Brazil wood, but it did the trick and it plays well. So honestly, you've seen a lot of Instagram videos with this stick, particularly before I got my, one of the bows I'll introduce to you next. It is also octagonal. It's really quick. Now the sound it pulls out is not as rich or as full, but that's why I generally do more delicate things with the stick. It works well. I still enjoy playing it. It's been a great stick to have. So I said I had 5 bows, and I only have 4 here. It's very sad. One of my bows is being held up at the Kimmel Center for the Performing Arts in my locker at work. And I haven't been in my locker at work since March of this year. It's very sad. It got left behind. So that is the Steve Reiley stick. So in addition, Steve Reiley made basses. He owned a bass shop, but he also made some really fantastic bows. As a matter of fact, one of his basses, actually Rob owns 2, but it's played in the Philadelphia Orchestra regularly. And the stick he made for me, really fantastic. I love the stick. It's a heavy stick, also octagonal and very fast. Has a great, really quick response, which I love. That quick response to me is really, really important. So I'm sorry I can't show that to you. In the meantime, after that, working with my buddy Aaron at Guarneri House in Michigan, I met a man named Vladimir Radosavljevic. I gotta do this again. Vladimir nope, that's not it. Vladimir Radosavljevic. Something like that. Vladimir Radosavljevic. Yeah, I think that works. That's what his name looks like, and that is one of his bows. And this is a little calendar that Guarneri House made of his sticks. The Vlad stick, now this is a crazy story, y'all. I met Vladimir Radosavljevic, or Vlad, is how I like to call him, in my hometown of Savannah, Georgia, because the former director of the Savannah Symphony, Philip Grunberger, actually deals fine instruments and fine bows and works with bow makers and instrument makers, and he found Vlad, and Vlad made other instrument bows, but just started making bass bows. And this is, I believe, one of his very first bows, if not one of his very first French bows. I played it, y'all, really impressed. It's a really great stick. Now, you might notice, if you look closely, that this stick is round. It is a round stick. I am playing a round stick. So y'all, I don't discriminate on the bows. I don't say I never play round sticks. I just generally don't gravitate towards them. But this one plays really, really well. And it's a little shorter, but it's balanced well. It's really, really fast. It can take really aggressive playing. So I have used it in orchestra, but honestly, use it honestly mainly for solo playing, because I love its quickness, I love its energy, but it also has a lighter feel, so it doesn't have the heaviness of the Reiley or the Grunberger or the bow I'm going to show you next. And it's just a fantastic stick. As a matter of fact, when I played the Mahler 1 solo with the Philadelphia Orchestra, and this is something I can talk about in a second, I had this bow sitting on the side, and I was playing my Grunberger, played first movement, second movement, half of it, and then after the trio and the scherzo, when the scherzo comes back, I picked up this bow to warm it up, and then I played the next movement, the Mahler 1 solo, on this stick. And it's mainly because, for two reasons. One, I don't like to play a stick with a whole lot of rosin to play something delicate. I generally try to stay away from that. So I would be more confident with the sound I would make with a smoother sound, smoother connectivity without all that rosin on the stick. So that's why this is the bow I've used to play. I've only done Mahler 1 in one subscription series with the orchestra. So this is the one bow I played Mahler 1 on. You see me do many Instagram videos with this bow, and generally they are the solos. So a lot of the solo playing, you'll see me like belted out basses. You'll see me using this bow. I haven't been using this bow recently because it got stripped on the inside, so I can't tighten it anymore. It's very sad. So I've been using the Tomassi for that reason recently. So that is the Radosavljevic or the Vlad bow. Really great stick. So the last stick I want to introduce to you is my Husson. Now the Husson has another name. I've known it as the Hussong, and it's also Husson Mariet or Mariet, M-A-R-I-E-T. I assume in French you don't say Marriott or Mariet. I'm sure it's like Mariet, but Husson. And this bow was made in the 20s, and this is the very first stick that I bought for Norma. I matched Norma. I mean, y'all, I'm not like an equipment junkie, so I don't go like always searching for bows or basses. Like Norma and I, we're good, and Riley, like we're good. I'm not like going. I will be playing Norma for the rest of my career. Like that is just going to happen. Isn't that right, baby? Yes, we're gonna be together forever. Anyway, so this is the first stick I bought for Norma, and if you look closely, it is also a round stick. Look at that. One of my main bows is a round stick, and this is a really great stick. I'm very fortunate to play it. Because I've been in quarantine and I haven't been able to play anything really past forte or fortissimo, or at least what I would do is for a very short amount of time. I've only been using the Grunberger, and I don't have a grip on this, so it feels terrible in my hands. It just feels like it's always gonna fall out. Maybe I have weak fingers. Maybe I should lift. Yeah, anyone got some finger exercise? What if I lift some weights? Anyone, you think I should lift weights? Maybe I lifted weights, I'll be able to play the bass better. I'll think about that. Anyway, so my little weak fingers can't hold the bow without the grip. So I had this rehaired before the pandemic, and I've just been too lazy to put y'all, this is hard. Putting these things on, it is hard. It is really difficult. And I'm just really, really lazy when it comes to that. So anyway, I've left it alone. But I love this stick, and The reason to stick one out as my main stick is because not only is it fast, like the Grunberger, but it pulls out a very dark, rich tone out of the bass. So it is a really nice stick. I'm really, really happy with it. And I just haven't played it in many, many months. So I look forward to playing it again one day. And that is my Husson. So those are my sticks, everybody. So about the age of the bows, the Tomassi is probably only like 15 years old. I mean, if that. The Grunberger is about 15 years old. I think that's exactly it. The Radosavljevic is probably, actually, I could tell you. The Radosavljevic, no, I can't. I believe it's probably about 3 years old. And the Steven Reiley bow is, according to, I'm looking at my paperwork, is 4 years old. And the Husson is from the 20s. So it would make it about 100 years old. No, not the 20, yeah, no, that's right. Yeah. I can't believe, y'all, I still can't believe it's 2020. Like, it just blows my mind. Y2K, I don't know how many of you know what Y2K is, but Y2K was like a thing, like the year 2000 was gonna come and the world was gonna end because all the computers were gonna like malfunction. So my brain, the thing that we're 20 years into the 2000s just makes my brain wanna explode, but we are. So yeah, 1920 to 2020 would be 100 years. That's how that works. So this bow is about a century old. That's amazing. So I use mainly two types of rosins, y'all. One is, you can see here, this is Nymans or Niemans. Y'all can put in the comments how you're supposed to actually say it. Niemans is, or Nymans is it's a drier rosin, but it's also very quick. So I love using this in the summertime to complement my other rosin because it generally can break down when it pops, or my Colstein soft, which I'll show you in a second. If it gets too junky, this actually breaks that down and I'm still able to get bite. That's the main thing. That's one reason I love this, so I can get bite, particularly in the summertime. In the wintertime, I use, and you can see, I don't have the case, I just have it in the little, but it's gold, and it's the Colstein soft. And I use that more so in the wintertime. I use them both all year round, but I use this mostly in the wintertime because it's drier and they still have that kick. So I use that. I don't melt them. I know there are many people who have all kinds of, they've built labs, double bass labs in the hills of the Appalachians, far away from everyone, and they melt all these rosins together and they see what kind of concoctions they can come up with. I've played some of them, they're actually really nice. But at the end of the day, I've always ended up just going like, oh, I feel like I need some Colstein soft. Oh, okay, I feel like I need some Nymans, and that's how that works. And that is it. Questions, comments, please put them in the comment section below. I love hearing from y'all, and I always try to get back to all your answers. This is a really long video. If you even made it this far, congratulations. And for that, you should reward yourself. And how should you reward yourself? You should reward yourself by subscribing to the channel now. Just get it over with. So you know you want to, because you want to see these videos about my bows and these excerpts I'm playing and rosin. I mean, it doesn't get more interesting than that. Like, what more is there to life? I just don't know. Everyone have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching.